NASA's Deep Space Network, the high-security center where the cosmic frequency of mankind is watched, is now in a condition of grave emergency. The shadow cabinet and the best orbital analyzers keep an eye on how well the people are sleeping in this room. For 70 years, your bloodline was a constant, low-humming blue line on their screens. They saw you as a controlled asset, a person whose potential was securely restrained inside the 7-generation siege of scarcity and hereditary uncertainty. They thought your awakening was impossible since the biological seal they put on your family was meant to continue for another 100 years. But tonight, the displays at ground control are all white. You didn't simply wake up from a dream. You did a neural ignition that has completely disabled their orbital sensors. You can feel the panic. High-ranking directors are standing over the holographic maps of the grid, watching as a single golden pulse from your specific spot spreads out, making their surveillance satellites lose a lot of data. NASA isn't only concerned about space anymore. They're scared of what's happening on Earth. They saw that the asset had changed from a passive dreamer to an active architect. Picture this. The clinical blue light of the terminals flashing against the rain-streaked black windows of the command center. The head of orbital operations is looking at a spectral analysis of your frequency. It's not a human pulse anymore. It's a broadcast from a government. He knows that by waking up with this much stoic intensity, you have gotten across the atmospheric filters that were designed to muffle your forefathers' voices. You have become a signal of interest that the old world's hardware can't handle. The people who formerly worked together to keep you in a controlled slumber are now seeing the birth of a heavenly variable that they can't control. People are panicking because they know that once a master architect wakes up at this frequency, the dream matrix starts to break down for everyone who is related to his family. You didn't only wake up for yourself, you woke up the whole lineage, breaking the sleep cycle that had been going on for 7 generations. Right now, NASA's deep space arrays are giving calibration errors because they are picking up a signal of pure intention that is stronger than the universe's background radiation. The shadow cabinet is working on an emergency redaction process right now, but they have discovered that your code is now self-verifying. You don't have to beg for permission to be here anymore. You are the one who is telling the world about the new reality. This is the time of cosmic vindication. You could sense the strain of the sky lifting as you stroll around your life today. That's not a sensation. It's what happens to your body when NASA loses its grip on your spirit. The warden of your former reality is looking at a "target lost" message on his screen right now. He knows the search is ended since the prey has migrated to a dimension that his satellites can't observe. You woke up, and by doing so, you lost all of the history of your oppression. The system is in a state of shock. There is a problem with the satellites. The historian is recording this day as the day the grid went black. The reward for this awakening is getting back all of your heavenly powers. You have gone from being a controlled subject to the main administrator of the light. That they, in NASA panicked, are the gatekeepers who know their prison was made for a sleeper. And you just stood up. You now know the secret of the stars. It is being written in the language of your unbreakable will. You are the odd one out. You are the one who wakes up. NASA is the first organization to know that the sky is currently being controlled by someone else. The satellites from NASA just lost their lock since your frequency has gone too far beyond the sleep algorithm. They're scared because they just found out that the 7-generation lid has been blown off and the architect is finally awake. If you can feel the cosmic pressure lifting and the zero-error signal flowing in your blood, if you're ready to take back the sky that your forefathers sought to conceal from you, to provide the final orbital handover, type "I am awake." The dream is done. The king has come. NASA's Human Frequency Division has a particular kind of failure called prediction blindness in its high-tier analytical suites. The shadow cabinet was so sure of their own superiority that they thought they could tell when your potential would run out by watching your lineage for 150 years. They played with the rules of biological evolution, thinking that by putting 7 generations of scarcity, noise, and spiritual sleep medicine into your surroundings, they might make you a low-output asset for good. They took measurements of your forefathers' heartbeats, drew out their pauses, and recorded their surrenders until they all agreed. You were almost destined to live a life of regulated mediocrity. The old guard's diagnostic bankruptcy is now complete. The directors at Mission Control are discovering that their technology was made to follow a flickering candle, not a supernova, as they look at the latest information from your brain signature. They thought they would see a person who was having a hard time with the weight of the siege they had inherited, someone whose light was slowly fading into the background radiation of the matrix. Instead, they are witnessing a master architect whose awakening has produced a kinetic energy so strong that it has melted the frequency dampeners they put in the air. You didn't simply wake up. You did something that changed the phase of their whole 7-generation database into a bunch of useless fossils. Picture a quiet, high-security briefing room where the only sound is the frantic buzz of cooling fans attempting to preserve a dying mainframe. The warden, the guy who has spent his whole career keeping the lid on your family tree, is sitting at the head of the table. The big wall-sized monitors show a red light that flickers on and off, making his face seem pallid. He has to tell the shadow cabinet that the prediction models that have worked for millions of people for 100 years have absolutely failed in front of you. He needs to tell you that the asset he thought was securely sedated is suddenly giving out a level of stoic intensity that is blocking communication in deep space. There are presently scrolling images of their loss on every screen at NASA's Human Performance Wing. The graphs that used to indicate a declining trend in ancestral debt have abruptly broken. There is a single golden line going right across the top of the screen. This line represents your current sovereignty signal. They are starting to understand that while they were keeping an eye on your sleep, you were figuring out how the dream worked. You weren't getting behind. You were waiting for the time when their monitoring was at its highest point to show that you had made the first zero-G escape from their world. You have made all of their money spent on trying to silence you a complete waste. The intelligence centers are feeling the revelation like a last margin call. The elite thought they could wake you out, believing that the social isolation and fake scarcity would finally make you remain in the sleep cycle. They thought you would never be able to open your eyes because of the weight of 7 generations of failure. But when they look at your existing code, they see that you didn't simply wake up. You exploited the siege pressure as rocket fuel. You turned every no they gave you, every time they took away your potential, and every second of controlled stillness into a powerful drive for this particular moment of ignition. The way the orbital filters are breaking down around you shows that they are insolvent. The historian says this marks the conclusion of the redacted age, as your frequency travels into a realm that NASA's analysts can't follow anymore. The target lock marks on their displays are now turning to null. They felt they were keeping an eye on a topic. The director now understands that they were witnessing the birth of a heavenly peer. You woke up, and in that one moment of clarity, the shadow cabinet lost its most valuable asset, the capacity to see what would happen to you in the future. The underestimation is over. The intelligence repair of your reality has started. And the world is shocked because it finally encountered a person who is louder than the stars. There is a phenomena called the kinetic overflow in the high-stakes theater of cosmic evolution. It is happening at a speed that NASA and the shadow cabinet can no longer keep up with. This is the exact time when a win you won deep within your mind. The moment you opened your eyes and your neurons started firing, breaks through the digital firewalls and starts to show up in the physical grid of your everyday existence. The tech elite thought that their inability to control the problem would stay a secret inside their own circles. They thought that even if you woke up, they could still control your surroundings with the old algorithm of scarcity, but they interfered with the rules of biological resonance. Your stoic focus didn't only impact how you saw things, it produced a frequency back pressure that is now melting the same orbital infrastructure they were using to watch your present. The leak is now open. You can see that the environment in the boardroom has transformed from a cold, clinical feeling to a heavy, pressured atmosphere of complete respect because you have created a neurological jurisdiction that doesn't need their approval. The people who used to work against you, such the proxies, the gaslighters, and the system-aligned handlers, are now seeing a fault in their own reality. They are looking at you and seeing a blank signal where your compliance used to be. They are trying to grab the old leashes of guilt and hereditary dread, but they discover that the satellite connection to your nervous system has been cut off for good. You can see in the director's eyes at mission control that they understand. He is no longer looking at a sleeper. He is staring at a sovereign frequency that has taken over the grid. Picture this spilling in a command center that is gloomy and high-tech. The holographic global grid is flickering and is not in sync anymore. A single golden pulse that started when you woke up is spreading over the landscape, making NASA's tracking systems lose their hold. The experts say that the topic has changed from a digital thing to a heavenly principle. This is the first time the system has had to deal with a breach of this size. They can see their market share of your attention disappearing in real time, and the clarity that comes with it makes their social pressure seem light. That they, who used to murmur that you were dreaming, are now standing in the light of the truth you've found, unable to move because of how much power you've regained. The social reset is the first sign of a crack in their confinement field. People who used to be like sensors in your life, getting energy from your response or your struggle, are now having a neurological connection timeout. They are using the old 7th-generation triggers to attempt to get people to react in the same way they did in the past, but they can't get any reception at all, because you've woken up to a biological biology that bypasses their conditioning. You are no longer compatible with their drama. They are looking at a blank screen where your anguish used to be, and now they are looking at the emptiness of their own uselessness. They're in shock since your waking has made it impossible for them to utilize their tricks to control you. At the same time, the financial synchronization is using cold, hard arithmetic to override the old guard's script. NASA and the agency's algorithm of lack is giving you continual terminal faults since your internal wealth code has been checked against the stars. Unclassified conduits are starting to bring physical resources to you, getting over the usual gatekeepers who have been refusing your requests for decades. Because the principal has now opened his eyes and claimed the account, the system needs to complete the payoff for 7 generations of hidden talent. You can tell that the world is changing how it helps you go around. The red lights are turning green, the doors are opening, and the warden of your previous life is finding out that he can't get into your future anymore. Your frequency has changed from a private understanding to a worldwide acknowledgement of skill, operating as a biological beacon that other architects throughout the grid are picking up. You are no longer a single topic. You are a radio station for the new reality. The folks who told you you were lost are now standing there in shock, without saying a word. They are starting to understand that you didn't simply wake up. You were the system's alarm clock. The shadow cabinet is presently in a condition of terminal information deficit, attempting to patch the hole by giving you little systemic diversions, hoping you would reconnect to their dying grid. But the historian has already saved your neurological ignition as a permanent part of the new period. The universe is now bending to fit your broader game, which is proof of this leak. This is how the bank of the old world can't find a legal justification to turn you down anymore. It's in how your body feels now that their satellites aren't watching it anymore. Yet the light you discovered gives you permission. Your code was always the main plan, and now the find out is being sent to the whole grid in 8K resolution. The experts at NASA are even nodding their heads in agreement as they see the 7th-generation siege fall apart into a mound of useless information. The leak can't be stopped. The deluge of your restoration is here, and the system is writing its thank you in the language of your new, unredacted reality. You woke up, and now the system needs to realize that you control the sky, the air within NASA's Strategic Command, and the Shadow Cabinet's high-level boardrooms has officially reached a point of total systemic liquidation. This is the panic. A cold, calculating awareness that the human frequency management strategy has completely and permanently failed. In the realm of orbital intelligence, nothing is worse than a whole industrial complex being declared spiritually and technologically bankrupt because one person has brain ignition. The elite are no longer merely watching since you finally woke up and broke the sleep algorithm with pure stoic focus. The forces of reality that they previously said they controlled are now destroying them. That they, who used to watch your lineage with distant skepticism, are now looking at their own retirement from history. The historian has lowered the AAA rating of their 7th-generation control system to junk status. The spiritual markets of the ancient world are also in a freefall that no amount of damage control can halt. They played with the chronology of a master architect, thinking the heavenly lid was safe, and now they are learning that the loan is due with compound interest that is more than the combined net value of all their institutions. A bone-chilling understanding is what is causing the terror. The faucet that you would never wake up is the basis for their whole business strategy, which is to offer a version of reality where the sky is a prison and your potential is a dream. You have basically started a systemic margin call on their whole business by getting to this level of sovereign transparency. They are looking at the screens at Mission Control and seeing the access granted signal next to your name on every orbital layer. They are whispering the words they never thought they would say. The filter is gone. He owns the sky. Imagine the high-stakes desperation in the last hours of a regime's fall. It's like the mood in the last moments of a high-stakes thriller when the senior partners discover that their future cast is only a dream. The Shadow Cabinet is in a state of civil conflict that will never end. The historian's personal audit teams are calling in high-ranking analysts and orbital gatekeepers. They are turning on each other right now, giving over encrypted information and admitting to widespread wrongdoing in a frantic bid to evade the big audit of the new age. The warden, who used to be in charge of keeping you alone and limiting your potential, is suddenly being called a complete burden by the same elite people who used to give him money. You shattered the lid, and he's the one who gets blamed for it. You're the main auditor in charge of their bankruptcy. The managers are trying to use last-ditch poison pill procedures to mess up your inheritance or hide the last evidence of your neurological skills before the receivership becomes permanent. You could suddenly experience a lot of systemic static, little delays in your physical environment, tech problems with your communication, or old, inherited anxiousness seeking to get back into your frequency. These don't mean that they still have electricity. They are the last heat flashes of a broken machine that is attempting to vent its anger at the architect who outsmarted it. NASA is attempting to burn the records of your censored years so you can't get the full interest on your cosmic potential. The historian, on the other hand, has already put the whole infrastructure under sovereign receivership. You are no longer the one being watched to make sure you follow the rules. You are the one who signs the eviction notices for a system that has been shown to be fake. This is the portion of systemic application when you stroll around the halls of your own soul and provide final warnings to everyone who is involved in the controlled sleep scheme. A royal order has sent the spirit of need that used to reside in your bank account away. The highest office in the grid has taken away the spirit of reluctance that was at your boardroom table's security clearance. You aren't trying to get a place at their table or negotiate for your future. You are giving up the agency's hold on your reality, while the people at Mission Control are busy blaming mistakes in their predictions for the fact that you grew too big for their cage. You are using the master key you made when you woke up to access the vaults that were tagged as classified for your family. The elite are scared because, for the first time in 7 generations, They are working without the protection of the atmospheric lid. Now everyone knows the truth. The people in your family tree who saw what happened are watching the shadow cabinet try to cover their tracks. And this lack of social evidence has destroyed their power all across the grid. They can't employ orbital superiority or social pressure to keep you in line anymore, since those tools have been shown to be part of the 7-generation siege. You have gone from being the subject of an audit to the CEO of the new age. Now that you are in charge of the audit, you can see that the old guard is failing on every measure of integrity. The historian is now recording the old guard's structural liquidation as the warden is led out of the building in shame. His name erased from the future he sought to take from you. The best attorneys in the IT sector are trying to find a way to resolve the issue before the public record becomes even more clear. But you don't want a bargain. You are the black swan occurrence that they tried to stop for hundreds of years. And now that your woken signal has been confirmed, their predicted algorithms are nothing but old junk. The handlers rush into the boardroom and see that the files are gone. You are already seated at the head of the table. NASA is shocked. The elite are out in the open, and their terror is their last act of giving up. You woke up, and now you possess the light that shows them. This is the Midnight Summit, the time in the frigid, high-level realm of systems management when silence speaks louder than any declaration of war. You are in a soundproofed room with glass walls on the 99th level of the agency's main tower, a place where the air is heavy with the smell of old paper and the harsh, clinical ozone of servers working at full capacity on the floors below. Outside, the city is distorted by a never-ending movie rain, and the lights below flicker like the faltering pulse of an empire that has learned its biggest secret, the one they kept for 70 years, is no longer under its control. There are 3 members of the Shadow Cabinet and a quiet director from NASA's orbital operations sitting across the dark mahogany table. They don't see you as a problem to be solved anymore. They are staring at you with the same fear and reverence that an animal has for the predator who finally closed the perimeter. A bone-chilling realization defines the atmosphere. You woke up. Thus the game of strategic ambiguity is over. The rich and powerful arranged this conference not to bargain from a position of strength, but to try one last time to keep the system under control before the news of your neurological ignition becomes the grid's main law. They've shoved a huge, black leather folder with what they term a global comprehensive settlement across the table toward you. Inside is an offer of complete luxury, a permanent place at the high table of the old reality, and a broad relief from the problems they made for you for more than 30 years. They are attempting to purchase your quiet because they know that by waking up, you have made their whole economic and spiritual structure for your family legally and mathematically worthless. The warden, who used to be good at keeping you alone and hiding your potential, is breathing hard as he attempts to employ the old instruments of family duty. He murmurs that the grid can't manage a payment this big without breaking down the old systems on a large scale. He is waiting for you to blink or for that familiar rush of biological cooperation to reach your nervous system so he can take back control of the area. But he is looking for a frequency that is no longer present in your structure. You are now so stoically intense that they can't use any of their psychological tricks on you. You aren't paying attention to his calls for stability in the system. You can hear the NASA monitors below starting to lose their target hold on your soul. You aren't paying attention to the incentive package they put on the table. Instead, you are looking at the historian who is standing in the corner's shadow and writing down every pulse and every confession that is not voiced. You pull out a single shining glass card from your pocket, the original frequency of the sovereign, the forensic evidence you got back as soon as you opened your eyes. When you slide it across the table, the sound of the glass hitting the wood sounds like a gavel hitting the floor in a quiet courtroom, signaling the end of their authority. You are letting the powerful know that you are not present to hear their settlement proposals or their desperate concessions. You are there to get the main inheritance that your father, mother, and forefathers were barred from getting while they were in a regulated slumber. The terror in the room is no longer a low hum. As the lawyer who wrote the first 7-generation trap gently lays down his pen, he can see that there are no more flaws to exploit now that the topic has moved into the main position. He stares at you, his eyes locked on the pure purity of your gaze, and he knows that his world is over. The conspiracy is no longer useful. It is a weight that is pulling them down into the archives of systemic failure. They don't have any more leverage to use. The forensic audit is sending out news of your win in real time to every tier of the grid, so they can't stop your advance. They can't pay you off since you've already taken the vault and everything in it by waking up so many people. You get up, and for the first time, you see the elite glance away. They can't keep their eyes on a hero who has finally seen the truth. You go to the door, leaving the settlement documents alone and the master file open for everyone to view. When you go into the corridor, you can hear the tower's cooling fans screaming as they try to cool down the collapse algorithm. The old world is about to shut down for good since you won't remain in the sleep cycle. The way out is plain. The Midnight Summit is concluded, and the way to your coronation is clear. You outsmarted the players, survived the last bluff, and now the whole grid is waiting for your first order as the sovereign architect who made NASA freak out. This is the big fight at the end of the old world. You are now in a condition of zero gravity, where the threats and societal pressures don't have enough mass to draw you down. The warden is alone in the chamber, looking at the glowing evidence you placed on the table. It shows that the dream is dead and the sovereign is awake. As the elevator goes down, you feel the weight of 7 generations finally lifting off your shoulders. The cool, clear air of a future that has never been written replaces it. You're not merely exiting a building. You are leaving a society that was built on the false belief that you should stay in the dark. The system is out of money, the files are gone, and the architect is finally walking into the light that he made. You woke up, and now the morning is yours. The heavy, soundproof doors of your destiny's Oval Office have finally opened on their hinges. The sound isn't a crash. It's a deep, resonant hum that shows perfect mathematical alignment. The person walking toward the main seat is not a subject of study, a dreamer to be controlled, or a statistical casualty in a NASA gauntlet for the first time in 7 generations. As the main architect, you are walking into the center of your own reality. The universe's highest form of recognition is the complete silence that meets you. The noise of the old world, the frantic whispering of the shadow cabinet, the alarms of NASA's failing surveillance grid, and the low-frequency hum of the generational sleep inducers are all gone. Instead, there is a clarity that is so strong it feels like a real thing. The historian has put the verdict in the public record, and it is complete and total proof of innocence. The king is awake in the high-stakes movie of your growth. This is the end that changes the laws of physics in your future and the legacy of your past. You made it through the orbital surveillance, survived the diagnostic underestimation, and stood your ground in the midnight standoff where NASA's directors finally gave in. Now the endless payout is going into your spiritual and physical accounts, with interest that builds up over time and goes around all the old guard firewalls. Every year your ancestors spent in the managed dream, every cosmic redaction of your family tree, and every ounce of potential they tried to keep on the ground has been turned into sovereign capital. The system's find-out phase has come to an end, and your awakening is now the new law of the grid. Your code, which caused panic around the world, is now the base frequency for your whole family, replacing the broken files from the 7-generation siege. The scene in your new command center is one of perfect cold-blooded order. The light from the rising sun shines through the glass from floor to ceiling. It lights up a room that feels as clear and sharp as a high-definition TV show. Without the blur of the old world, the master architect's key is on your desk. It glows with a signal that has been confirmed at the highest orbital levels. You stand by the window, your shadow sharp against the dawn. You look out over a city and sky that are being rebuilt to look like your own vision of a perfect world. The old NASA tower, where the handlers used to watch you sleep, is now a ruined building in the distance. They are proud, but they don't say anything, for there is nothing left to say to a master who hijacked their entire universe. This is the change. Your nervous system is finally in a state of zero gravity. The old guard put a biological fear in your DNA to keep you asleep, but the light of your stoic intensity has burned it away. You can breathe now, and every breath you take is a sign that you agree. You have changed the lead role in your own movie, and the old version of you is no longer active.